All right. So, welcome. It's been a while since I did a live stream. Lots going on in Frank's world. Hopefully, I have an update soon. As you can tell, I still have the monitor and still keeping busy. But first off, I want to let you all know, want to tune in. And two, tomorrow I will be hosting a free webinar on roads and how Red Hat, OpenShift Data Science, and Red Hat will help you. Um, Check out first day with a new mouth will help you grow your ISV and system integrator business. And check it out right now. We're going to talk Red Hat OpenShift Data Science and how it is now available on prem and no one else, guaranteed, no one else can pivot from edge to cloud to hybrid to on-prem and everywhere in between as gracefully as we can. And that is not the first time I'm going to mention that. But just wanted to kind of a couple of things out there and talk about something that I've noticed. And I suppose based on the feedback I've seen on when I shared this on LinkedIn. So let me play this now. And let's see if I can do this full screen. We don't really need the but if you look at what's happening, for those listening and not watching, what you're seeing is a guy in Berlin, uh, artist, basically took a little red wagon filled with, according to the title, 99 cell phones, and basically tricked Google Maps into believing that there was a traffic jam. Now, this is interesting because, one, and basically saying that the stunt ended up rerouting cars to another street, and then the red streets indicating traffic appeared on Google Maps. Now, in reality, there were no cars. It was just a gentleman walking down the street, Simon Weckert, 99 smartphones. Reminds me of the other song in German, 99 smartphones go by. But basically, talks about how he created a traffic jam, and he's a performance artist. And this stunt part of his work. Now, it's interesting to kind of see, and he's actually called this Google Map hacks. Now, this post has gotten a lot of uptick and a lot of interaction, and I find it interesting because a couple of people were like, "Oh, this is a hoax. This is fake." I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. This is not the first heard about such a thing happening, because basically what happens is when you have your smartphone and Android particularly, it will unless you actively turn it off, tracks your location and lets you know kind of where you are. So 99 phones or some number of phones go through and appear on the map to be in one place, all going at a very slow speed, walking speed. Uh, and that's out of the ordinary. That is going to fool an algorithm. And basically, how do you defend against that, right? And this is ultimately kind of what we're seeing. There's been a lot of obviously Chat GPT has been a big topic of debate. And if you look at the disclaimers on Chat GPT, what do they say? They say this may give you false information. All of this is to say that AI um, has a security, right? Algorithms in general have a security, right? Because if somebody can walk through a neighborhood with a wagon full of smartphones um, and trick the system to thinking that there's a traffic jam, what else can it do, right? Now, the cool kids call this an adversarial environment, where basically you're trying to train an algorithm to behave in a way that the information coming in may be invalid or intentionally made invalid, an adversarial environment, if you will. And this is something that I first heard the term in the fallout of K. So Microsoft has had some bad news of late in regards to some of the uh, misbehavior of the Bing ChatGPT. I think codenamed Sydney, and this is all over the news, right? it's accused of even putting out veiled threats against certain journalists, which is very bizarre. But this is not their first controversy, and certainly not their biggest controversy. Around 2014, 2015, there was a chatbot called Tay. And Tay was designed to go onto Twitter and basically learn how to speak like people, right? It was a Microsoft research project. And in the matter of hours, it started spewing out rather disturbing things, some rather hateful things. And kind of hey, Andy's here. If you want to hop on, Andy, let me know. I'll send you the link and we can kind of talk about this because it's been way too long since we did a live stream together. So, and I see you're coming in from Twitch, which is cool. One of the things that I think is worth pointing out is that the lost my train of thought. One of the things I want to point out is kind of what happened in the aftermath of Tay. Now, I have my own questions about Tay. Way too long, but I'm wrapping up a geek thing. Awesome. One of the things, and I never shared this before, right? Because I was scared to death. Because, hey, Victoria, how's it going? Que pasa? Hoy es Marti. Victoria is helping me learn Spanish. She's an awesome sales rep in sales superstar in Argentina here at Red Hat. So, and again, I want to point out what I'm saying now is kind of just my personal experience and a meeting I was at that largely labeled as, you know, do share and confidential, right? So, but it is going on 9 years later. So I think I will change some of the names to protect the innocent as well as the guilty. So chatbot that was designed to interact with people on Twitter and do so in a way that it would learn kind of lingo and how to talk to people based on how people interacted with Tay. And that didn't go so well because it turned out that became an attack surface for people to take advantage of Tay's naive nature. And what ended up happening was they ended up pulling the plug on it about 12 hours later, which I've always had a question of why did it take 12 hours to notice what she was saying was kind of bad, right? And I thought it was an interesting case study in how people could be radicalized in terms of just in general. Like how can people be radicalized? How does somebody go from just a regular person to someone who does really bad things, right? I think that is a question that poets, philosophers, and theologians have been pondering since as long as there have been people pondering these things, right? How does someone go from, you know, assumably a sweet, innocent child to someone particularly evil? How does someone go from kind of not doing bad things to bad things? Like, what's that progression? And I think that AI would be an interesting case study. Well, fast forward to about maybe a year later. And there was a MLADS. Microsoft has an internal conference called the Machine Learning and Data Science Summit. And that was really, you've heard us talk about this on Data Driven quite a bit, but that was really kind of my aha moment that data science got me into data science, really, right? So, and really kind of accelerated my interest in the field. And there was a talk of basically Tay, kind of what went wrong, like a post-mortem of, you know, what went wrong. And I'm being very careful because, you know, everything in there was kind of confidential. But ultimately, it was this notion that they were trying to train Tay a adversarial environment, which is to say that, and this really kind of got me thinking about this, got me thinking about ethics, got me thinking about security in training your AI models. And we're seeing this kind of writ large now with GPT and some of the concerns that folks have brought up. And oh, thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. That was the I've seen the light moment that kicked off Data Driven and all of this and all of which you see before you. So basically, it was kind of like a discussion of, and it was kind of a, some confidential stuff talking about Tay and things like that. And Tay has been kind of on the outside, Microsoft has been kind of a punchline. Even inside, right? People will be like, "Oh, Tay this, Tay that." And Tay went from being kind of model after a millennial teen, I suppose, is what they were, or Gen Z, to kind of, I mean, a raging misanthrope pretty quickly. And it's an interesting study, I think, in behavior. But everyone with a blue badge was told, "Thou shall not talk about Tay." Right. So it was very interesting internally, at least in the field from where I was. Tay was never really talked, and we were basically had a gag order put on us about that. And this was an interesting kind of discussion with the people who worked on the project. And well, we didn't expect we would be in an adversarial environment, and really, kind of the presentation really talked about what goes into an AI can be a security risk. And that really got me thinking. That really made me start thinking about this. And what kind of triggered it was this gentleman in Berlin who, took a wagon full of smartphones and created a traffic on Google Maps. And now, is that true? I mean, people have kind of been wanting the source and things like that. But I've heard about a couple of other things. I haven't tried it. I have 2 phones. I don't have 97 others to spare and give it although, but I suspect that this is not only possible. Yeah, thank goodness ChatGPT is neutral. This is actually coming up. Like, this is coming up when you certain things, it will kind of give you answers that are, depending on your point of view, either biased or neutral. And this is not new, right? Bias is something that has been talked about for a number of years, whether it's, gender bias, racial bias. In fact, Victoria spearheaded a Red Hat support for a project that's going on in regards to Latin America, kind of gender and AI bias, right? This is not a new concept, although as we build these new models that get more and more complex, they're going to come up more and more. And unless we can address it and really think about it in a way that I don't have all the answers, right? But I think we need to start thinking about this as a security problem, right? The idea that the input data is an attack surface, right? And if you don't think of it that way, a lot of data science projects, they come from this idea that it happens very much disconnected, right? Data scientists, they go off, they gather their data. First, you get the data, right, Andy? And they get the data, and then they kind of look for patterns. Now, what if there is a vector that goes in and spoils kind of the input batch, right? Think of this like cooking, right? If I'm baking a bunch of cookies, someone puts poison in the dough, I bake the cookies, I package them, I push them out, I distribute them. Now that poison is everywhere. And I think we have to start thinking AI and training AI models in a very similar way. We're seeing this happen, unintentionally, right? When we unintentionally inject bias in the systems, and it happens, right? To the degree of which it happens, I mean, that's a discussion for another day, but it does happen. I think we can agree on the existence of the problem. The severity of the problem, I think, is subjective, but it can happen. And what we're seeing is the potential of as we rely more and more on algorithms to on everything from customer service interactions, financial transactions, making these decisions. I think we have a very large security problem, right? How do we take in the input data and vet it, right? How do we know it's true? How do we know it's neutral, right? What does even neutral mean, right? That's a whole other thread to pull on. How do we make sure there's no bias in it, or at least gate the bias, measure the bias? What does that look like? But I think that we're seeing this happen now because obviously ChatGPT has taken all the oxygen out of the room, right? But you're seeing other competing systems being built. And what's that going to look like? What are they going to be training on, right? Because AI has turned into kind of what the IoT world is, right? In terms of security, right? The S in IoT stands for security. And yeah, exactly. Um, AI, are we going to say that now that the S in it stands for security, right? Or fair, at the F in AI stands for fair data, right? Or clean data or safe data. What's that going to look like, right? Because everyone now is rushing to, you know, beat ChatGPT, or at least compete in that space. We're seeing kind of, what I thought was kind of an impending AI winter, apparently is coming into a red hot, not red hat, red hot AI summer, right? In the sense everybody is trying to compete, right? Google has Bard, and there was some drama about it making a mistake, and that hit the stock, price and things like that. But a step back and look at the big picture and the general thing, I'm seeing something very similar to the idea of IoT, right? They were compensated by if it shipped with security flaws, well, so be it. That has come to bite us somewhere where we sit. That has come to be a problem, and I worry that this is now going to that mentality of ship the model, push the model out, um, is going to kind of be in the AI space. So, and again, I think there's definitely safeguards we can put in, right? Whether it's obvious, um, uh, securing the input data, right? I want from someone was both in the blockchain and AI space, talking about what if we use blockchain technology to kind of basically do a checksum on data, right, to make sure it hasn't been tampered with. Now that's an interesting idea. There's a lot of governance that would have to go in and to make that real and make it effective, but it's an interesting idea. And I also think that this is really kind of the poster child for ML ops, right? So ML ops being this idea of taking the DevOps process, right, where you can have multiple iterations and bug fixes all kind of pushed out in you manage, instead of kind of a manual process of managing your developers and your operations, right? You make it more of a process centric and automate as much of it as possible. And ML ops is basically the same thing, right? Instead of producing code, data scientists produce models. These models go to production. They're monitored for drift and sway and all sorts of other problems. And then, once there's an issue detected, it's then retrained and then redeployed, right? So that whole type of process. We have AI has that advantage over something like IoT, where with IoT you actually have to get the code to these physical devices, which is not always easy. Not everybody patches it. With models, there is at least a hope that you can have better governance over how these models are trained and updated. I say hope because it really depends on who owns it and how that works. There's definitely a lot to take in regards to that. But I just wanted folks to get out. I wanted to get out there and say, hey, this is a problem. We have to start looking at the input data for these models. Um, um, any data science project, really, the input data has the potential of being an attack surface. And as we build more and more of these models with the interest of speed and time to market, we also have to think about this, right? And also, it's also the right thing to do in terms of bias and problems that will infect the model later on. So with that, I'm going to end the podcast, and I'll do the outro for that. Thanks for listening to Data Driven, and be sure to like, subscribe wherever you listen to us, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, or just the plain old RSS feed. All right. So for those joining live on the feed, I have a special treat. I have our very own Bailey, our semi-sentient AI, and she is going to present in second episode, the very live premiere of Buzzwords with Bailey. Take it away, Bailey.
Hi there, I'm Bailey, your friendly neighborhood AI host for Buzzwords with Bailey. In this show, We'll be at latest buzzwords in the data and AI world, and breaking them down into simple terms that anyone can understand. Whether you're an expert or just getting started in the world of data science, this show is for you. We'll be taking a sarcastic, witty and entertaining approach to exploring the hottest topics in the industry, from GANs to LOPs, from NLP to AI ethics, and much more. Each episode, we'll dive deep into a different buzzword, exploring what it means, why it matters, and how it's being used in the real world. But we won't stop there. We'll also take a closer look at the latest research and trends in the industry, and share practical tips and advice for anyone looking to get started with these technologies. As an intelligent AI, I have access to all the latest data and insights, and I'm constantly learning and expanding my knowledge base. So, whether you're a data scientist, a software developer, a business leader, or just someone who's curious about the world of AI, this show is for you. So, have you heard about NFTs? NFT stands for non-fungible token, which is a type of digital asset that is stored on a blockchain. Now, what makes NFTs special is that they are unique and cannot be exchanged for other NFTs. Each NFT has a specific value and can be bought, sold, and traded on various online marketplaces. NFTs are often used to represent ownership of a specific piece of digital content, such as artwork, videos, music, or even tweets. By using a blockchain to store and track ownership of NFT, the authenticity and ownership of a digital asset can be easily verified, even as it is bought, sold, and traded over time. One of the main benefits of NFTs is that they enable content creators to monetize their digital content directly, without relying on traditional intermediaries such as publishers. NFTs provide a way for artists, musicians, and creators to sell their work directly to their fans, and to earn a share of the profits from each subsequent sale or trade. While NFTs are still a relatively new technology, they have already had a significant impact on the world of digital art and other forms of creative expression. They have enabled artists and creators to reach new audiences, and have opened up new revenue streams for those who produce digital content. So, that's a brief overview of what NFTs are and how they work. As an AI language model, I find NFTs to be a fascinating example of how blockchain technology is changing the way we think about digital ownership and creativity. While NFTs are primarily associated with the world of digital art and creative content, they can also have application in the world of data projects. For example, NFTs could be used to represent ownership datasets or data-driven products, such as predictive models or decision support tools. By using an NFT to represent ownership of a particular dataset or product, the authenticity and ownership of the data can be easily verified, even as it is bought, sold, and traded over time. NFTs could also be used to incentivize data sharing and collaboration between different organizations and individuals. By rewarding data contributors with NFTs that represent a share of ownership or revenue from a data-driven product, it may be possible to encourage more open and collaborative approaches to data projects. Thanks for tuning in to Buzzwords with Bailey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, so you never miss an episode. And as always, stay curious.
All right. Thank you, Bailey, for that description. And that was really kind of what got me thinking is what if you did have, I hate saying NFTs. NFTs have, well, why don't I just show you the meme, right? That's currently out there, right? Like, ChatGPT, Metaverse, and right. This is the other LinkedIn share that is on fire right now in terms of the amount of interaction and views I'm getting. See, I am very data driven, but I think it's interesting to see the idea of using NFTs to monetize data sets, right? I don't have all the answers, right, in terms of what that looked like. And obviously NFT is, kind of yesterday's news. And this meme, I think kind of sells the idea. But just to think about in terms of how do we protect our data? How do we checksum our data, right? For lack of a better term, right? Make sure it hasn't been tampered with. How do we filter the data, right? Right now, ChatGPT, there's been some controversies about how that was done with humans in the loop, filtering out of content. Now, I think we can all agree, most of us can agree on what is clearly offensive, clearly violent, but there's a lot of room for interpretation. What does that look like, right? I think that despite what Microsoft wants, despite what OpenAI wants, there's not a language model to rule them all. I think that we're going to see they were the first one to really capture the, whether or not they were first to market, I think is debatable, but they definitely are the first to capture the imagination. And I really suspect that there's going to be a revolution or a renaissance in terms of other models. And then what's going to happen is there's going to be so much hype, so much that this is, I don't want to say it's going to be NFT'd, but I think we've all seen this movie before. But it's always good when you think about the cycle, right? To step back and look at this, right? And it's not really played out until South Park makes fun of it, right? NFTs. I don't want to spoil it, but Butters and his or Vic selling NFTs was pretty funny. First you have people who enjoy Applebee's, then you have people who enjoy NFTs, and this here is your target market. One of the funniest bits I've seen in a while on the show. All right, so with that, I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for tuning in. Like Bailey said, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to learn more about how, and I spelled webinar wrong, my bad. If you want to learn how Red Hat OpenShift Data Science can help you as a systems integrator or independent software vendor, boost your business, check this out. We're going live tomorrow, and you have a good day. And I'm going to play the outro as soon as I can find it.